Alrighty, networking day. Um, Guess we'll just have a free for all. I didn't work up any activities or anything for today, so just answer questions and things like that. Anyone take an exam recently? Net plus. Nope. Okay. So who has it coming up pretty soon? Nobody, huh? Within like the next month or so?
Man, you're getting crickets today.
Yeah.
No, I need to be tested for Sec Plus in about a month. I just drop in to keep fresh. You know what I mean?
Right, I hear you. Okay. Uh, Robert says he should be taking this soon. All right. Cert Master and you certified. Yeah, that'll work. Um, I like Cert Master really well for this exam. You certify okay, but I would much rather have a virtual network to kind of play around in when it comes to like the hands-on aspect of learning this stuff. You certify is good because it does let you apply a lot of the stuff, a lot of the concepts, which is it's what you really need to do. But for me, I think that you don't really understand this stuff really until you start playing around in networks, like actual, even if it's just a small one, right? All you need, like we were talking about, I think on an A plus, but I know we discussed it here too. But we were just talking about it on Tuesday. But I mean, you only need a point to point for a network, right? All you need is two devices really, and you have a network. So even if it's just a switch connected to a PC and a phone or a printer, just being able to observe what happens when you do stuff, right? That's the whole thinking behind the virtual network is break it on purpose, right? So set it up first and make sure that it works, and then what you do is you break it on purpose to observe and see what happens. Um, and then obviously you want to be able to fix it, but that's kind of the repetition that a lot of people are missing going into this exam. Like they try to go into it with lecture knowledge, with lecture and notes and practice exams, which is cool. I mean, it helps reinforce that that you understand the information and that you're able to to think your way through scenarios. Hopefully, if you're taking the right practice exams, but for the most part, um, you don't really understand this stuff until you kind of put it into practice. I mean, that's my experience anyway. That's what it was for me. Because the concepts, they're not really that hard to grasp if you kind of if you're tenacious about it. If you're one of those people, the concepts are not really that difficult to grasp. But some stuff you really don't get until you're able to put it into play. So, uh, Robert said he took Cisco 1 and 2. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. If you took Cisco, then the concepts in Net Plus are, I won't say they're mild. They're the same, but you need a bigger. There's a lot more stuff you need to know how to do for Cisco for those exams. So anyway, this is what we're talking about. I was using this topology on A plus because we were talking Net Plus networking stuff, and so I was trying to see if they could tell me like how many VLANs were here, right, in this network. Um, but so right, you have a network here. There's 6, right? There's one here. There's one here. There's one here. and then the other networks are here, right? It's a point-to-point network, or I'm sorry, VLAN. Point-to-point, 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 right? So it has its own subnet, right? This is the 1.0 network here. This is the 2.0 network over here. Then this is the 6.0 network down here, right? So these, I keep saying network, subnet. It's the same network, but and then the same thing here, right? These point to points. It's an actual subnet. It has its own range, right? It has its own devices. It's just with this slash, I'm only going to get two. I'm only going to get two hosts with this slash, right? So it's just a condensed subnet, but it's still its own subnet. So anyway, the whole idea is being able to put the stuff together, make sure that it works, and then do something that should break it and absorb what happens. Give this an IP address outside of the range, right? Here's my range right here. And so with your IP knowledge, you should know, which devices are, which addresses are valid on this subnet, which ones aren't. So take a device, give it an address that's not valid, and run a ARP. Like do stuff like that just to see what happens, and then it helps you kind of supplements the troubleshooting and things like that. That you can't really. I don't think you can learn troubleshooting by listening to lectures. It's you have to feel your way through it. So that's what this lets you do. It lets you. I mean, it's better when you have someone to work with, because if you break it, then you know what was broken. But if someone else breaks it, let's say that Robert is he's using Packet Tracer at the same time. Like maybe we're both studying for Cisco or even Net Plus, right? And what is better for me to do is break the network somehow and then send him the topology and let him figure out what I did and how to fix it, right? Because if you know what's broken, then you should know how to fix it. But I think the first part is going through and observing what happens when you break it on your own, and then practice fixing it. Then once you get comfortable with that, then you use someone else, right? You bounce your ideas off of someone else. Have me send you a topology and see if you can figure out what I did to it. That's the type of stuff that you really want to get some practice doing, and it'll make a whole lot more sense. Or at least you'll feel more comfortable with, when you're sitting down and they're putting you in those troubleshooting scenarios. You feel more comfortable because you've had to practice kind of going through the motions, as opposed to trying to remember what Jason said you should try first in his video, or what Professor Mercer said you should try next, or what Jason Dion said, or what I said. You know what I mean? You kind of have your own experience to lean on. So, Kevin wants to know, has anyone here used Udemy? Yeah. I don't know if anyone here has, but I know of a few people that have used Udemy. Jason Dion, I believe. Either Jason Dion and then also Mike Myers as well. But yeah, I've heard it's pretty good, actually. I haven't experienced for myself, but I heard that his training is pretty well. It's pretty good. And that's the thing. Like, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because my philosophy is you should use at least 2 different sources of the information. When I say source, like someone that goes through the objectives, right, from like top to bottom, and actually right here, someone that goes through the objectives, right, top to bottom, and talks about everything that you're going to see, gives you hints for the exam, like that type of stuff. So obviously you get one off the bat, which is Jason's training, right, Online Expert. But you should always use a secondary source as well. So for me, it was Professor Messer when I was going through the program. That's who I used as a secondary source. Some people have used Mike Myers for A plus. I've heard a lot of good things about him for A plus, and then Jason Dion and Mike Myers for and Professor Messer obviously for Net Plus. Security Plus. There's a guy named David Prowse, and I use some of his. He has some YouTube videos that I used to look at just to try to understand the concepts a little better. He had like a firewall video where he kind of shows you how to, how to set up a firewall, how to use the rules, and things like that. So I definitely think that you should use some type of a secondary source of the information, right? I'm not just talking about like use Certify or CertMaster. Like those are good resources as well. But I mean, someone that kind of lectures through all of this stuff and gives you their perspective on it. That's the type of stuff that ever since my first exam, that's what I've always done. I've always used two sources. So, and it's also good to look for inconsistencies, things like that. Because sometimes you come across them. For the most part, the info is the info, right? Subnetting is the same, even though Jason may explain it differently than Professor Messer, right? When I went through Professor Messer's course, he broke down the bitwise and, right? And that's the way that I understood it at first. It made the most sense to me that way. Then Jason came along a little later. Then the way that he used a method called the interesting octet, right? And that's a whole nother way to do it. And for some people, that's easier. It's a lot easier to do it that way. Like figure out, all right, which octet is the one that is being affected by the subnet mask that you have, or by the slash that you have. For some people, it's easier to do it like that. So that's why I say it's good to get two perspectives, because then you can kind of, you're not pigeonholed to one person's perspective. You know what I mean? Keeps everything more not broad, but you have different perspectives to kind of consider. So you're
Okay.
looking.
On that though, one thing I found the first time I took the test, I was kind of in between methods, or I kind of crossed them a little bit. So when you decide on a method, you got to choose and go in that direction. Don't be on the fence about whichever way you're going to go with it.
Right. For me, it's not about like combining their methods. It's just picking which one resonates with me more, which one. So I'll use subnetting again as an example. When I first learned it, I thought I understood it, but I didn't understand it as much as I needed to. So you just go on and you listen to another person explain how they do it, and I've heard at least like 4 or 5 different ways to do subnetting. So I don't combine like little pieces of each way. I just found the one that worked best for me and say, okay, that's the one I'm going to do. So I think that's what he's saying. That's what Racing is saying. Like make sure that you find the best method, and try not to blend perspectives. But for example, EUI64. This is the concept behind this, even though someone may explain it differently, like it's still done the same way. But if someone breaks it down to bits versus explaining it a different way, like that stuff makes more sense to me than it does, trying to do math or whatever. It's not that I can't do math, but I just try to find a way that seems the easiest to me, or I can relate it to something that makes more sense to me. So, okay. So you say you're just looking for more exam-specific material. The exam-specific stuff, to be honest with you, is really CertMaster. I mean, when you talk about the information that's covered and on the exam, and kind of going through like each one, and That's what I found. CertMaster was very helpful for me when I was getting ready for this exam. And I noticed it as soon as I started taking the exam and getting questions, I started thinking back, oh yeah, I remember seeing this, or, I'm glad that they covered this on CertMaster. I remember thinking that as I was taking the exam. I seriously do. So if you're talking about exam specific, I'm not talking about the format of the questions though. The format of the questions is kind of specific to the exam. You don't really see any any resources or practice exams that structure them exactly like that. But as far as the terminology goes, and covering what needs to be covered or what you're going to likely see on the exam, CertMaster is really, I remember that being a great resource for this exam. Yeah, because it's different. They're different. It's the same thing. So if you take um, Online Expert, okay, you go through Online Expert, you go through the post assessments, you knock them out, you're getting 90%, right? The questions that you're getting in Online Expert are based off of the training that you got in Online Expert, right? If you take that information and you go to a different resource and they're asking different types of questions, or they're restructuring the way that they're asking questions, right? The concept is the same, but there's some stuff that you didn't pick up on. So you go from Online Expert and then you go to in a CertMaster and people are like freaking out because they're seeing stuff that wasn't covered, right? Or they're saying, oh, he didn't go into that much depth, and that's why you're getting those other resources. But I don't know what Jason Dion's exams are like. I haven't taken them, so I can't really speak to how close they are to the exam. But I can tell you that I remember feeling happy that I used CertMaster as I was going through the exam. That was my experience. Okay, it could be. I mean, I haven't seen them, so. But if you want to try them out, obviously after you take the exam, you'll be able to speak to it because you use CertMaster and you're using that too. So I'm interested to see what you have to say actually after you take the exam. But I have heard good things about his course, not about the exams. But everyone has practice exams. Professional Messer has practice exams. Jason Dion has practice exams. Mike Myers does. Just about everyone who has videos on this stuff have some type of exams that they're selling and notes and things like that. So if it helps you, I mean, hey, by all means. Okay. So you guys have any specific concepts that you want to go over? Or I don't know. Let's see. Let me look on my hands-on simulator. Honestly, this is where I saw similar stuff, but only performance-based wise. You're not going to see too many of those, But like this one, the antenna placement one, right? I saw something like this on the 005, 006, and 007, right? Something similar to this, where you have to pick out uh, which access points you're going to use, right? Which channels you're going to put them on, how you're going to structure them, the type of antennas that you're going to use, right? I remember seeing something like this on all three exams. There's another one on here, I believe. Interference. No, not that. But early standards terminology. That's what this resource is really good for, the terminology, making sure that you understand, like this one, right? Because we were talking about this in A plus, as a matter of fact. We were talking about differentiating between the 802.11 standards. On A plus, it's a lot more simpler than it is here. A plus, you just need to know the gigahertz and the speeds, pretty much. Um, whereas you need to know a little bit more here, right? But the terminology that they use here on this exam is really, or not this exam, but this resource, is really the highlight of it, I believe, because it just makes sure that um, I found a good one. Yeah, this is a good one. OSI model. Oh no, this one, right? So like TCP protocols, right? Like knowing what all of these are for, right? Knowing what these, the application of all of these. Terminology that they use here is real similar to the terminology used on the exam, right? That's another thing I remember, right? Because understanding, what ARP is, um, and why you would use it, that type of stuff. It just kind of helps you speak the language when you go through resources like this. Helps you understand it a little bit better. So that's what I like about this resource. And then also it has a lot of good activities too. It has virtual networks that you're able to configure to, right. So the switch here, and if you don't know how to configure a switch, this is a port activity. So um, port security activity actually. So it kind of walks you through how to set up port security on a switch. So this is a type of resource that I would prefer over Use Certified, just because it's more, like it's more trial and error, I guess. Even though you have the instructions over here, but kind of have more control over what you can do over here than you do in Use Certified. So this is just a small network, but they give you bigger ones too, just depending on what the activity is. Now the troubleshooting one is pretty good. Troubleshooting area, command line tools is area 2, where you go in and um, get to use a bunch of the command line tools and stuff. Using netstat to troubleshoot connectivity. So this one, I think it just kind of walks you through stuff. It doesn't let you connect to anything here, but it just depends on which one you're doing. Anyway, question. Maurice has a question. Smart check media converter SLP. I don't know. Is that on SurMaster? Fries diagnostic testing at the demarc point. Um, well, it's not a AAA server. Um, media converter. I don't know. I'm assuming it would be a smart check. I'm just doing an elimination. I know it's not a AAA server, and media converter just converts to media. I don't know if it's doing diagnostics, and it's not a SIP truck. So yeah, I'm assuming it's a smart jack. Anyone else have any thoughts? Kelly says.
I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, it's in the chat box.
The ISP providers are going to use the smart jack to test the lease line. So that's what the smart jack is there primarily for. So the ISP provider, be it whoever, can go ahead and put a loop back on that thing or whatever else to determine the functionality of the lease line.
There you go. No problem, sir. Yeah, like even on that one, you could actually use process of elimination if you think about it. If you read the question and then with the choices that you gave, the only one that makes sense is SmartJack, to be honest. So I would.
For me, the easiest thing to remember about the smart jack is that it's part of the DMARC, that it is what your network plugs into to hit the external network. And that's usually what I remember about the smart jack.
Okay. Cool. There you go. Look, you got a bunch of feedback there. All right. Where are we at? Oh, okay. We got plenty of time. All right. So, what else you guys have? I don't know. Maybe. Give me a second. Is my network's my topology still up? All right. Maybe we can do some troubleshooting or something. Okay, well, let's just talk. I guess let's talk troubleshooting strategy. Sounds like no one has any questions. Talk about it for a minute, and then I'll let you guys cut out if you want. I won't make you stick around if you don't need to. All right, so real quick, let's say that I want to ping this server for some reason, for whatever reason, right? Or actually, no, let's not say that. Let's say that I want to pull something off of this server. And for some reason, I am not able to do that. What would be the first step, you think, in figuring out what the problem is? What would you do first? Let's start there. It's for everybody.
You want to access the server. You want to ping it, see if it's there.
Okay.
What's your answer? Yes or no?
Says ping. I like that. What else?
So once you determine whether you get a response or not, then you see if you got the right VLANs configured for that server on that port on that switch to make sure that you're actually offering and receiving what you expected in the right IP range as far as the traffic goes.
Okay, so you went from ping to obviously we're assuming that the ping didn't go through. So
I asked that question if it go through or not, then you didn't answer.
Okay, I got you. All right, so no, let's say ping doesn't go through. You ping, no ping, no response.
Okay, then you go back to the switch and you go and check now to see if the configuration on that switch port has changed, whether you have a correct VLAN configuration on it, or if the switch port even failed or shut down.
Okay.
Then, depending upon what you see on that switch port, you may have a cable problem.
Okay, let me. hands-on post for fiber connectors. Yeah, there is actually. I'll come back to that in a second, Maurice. I think if you check on Professor Mercer, there is a way, but I'll check the chart in a second. Ping, it fails an IP address. Robert says ping, and then it failed IP address. Verify DNS. Okay. IP config. Verify full stack. Ping. Okay. What's another one that we can try? Even before some of this other stuff, right? Even before IP config and verifying your full stack. Yeah, traceroute, right?
Make sure you're plugged.
Right, because so he said something about check the switch, right? But if there's two switches between this PC and this router, the problem can be on either one of them, or the problem can be on any one of these routers, right? All we know right now is we started a ping and the ping didn't go through. So we start checking switches individually, that'll take a long time, right? If we have, well, so right here is only 4 devices, right? But let's assume that maybe there's more, right? There could be 20. And so from ping, I would probably go to traceroute, and then that'll give me a better idea of where the problem is. The problem could be here, or the problem could be way over here, right? So I'll probably go to traceroute right after ping. And definitely on the exam, you want to go to traceroute right after ping, right? Sometimes they'll tell you that you pinged already, so just make sure that you're looking out for that. Start with your own. You start inwards and then you go outwards. So start with your own network or your own segment, and then start going out and see what happens there. So you could ping. Another thing that you could do is, let's say that you ping. We pinged the server and we got a no, right? No response. Another thing that we could do before we go to traceroute is what? Think a little bit more simpler.
You're going to say verify power, but then again, you're back to the same question. Where are you starting from?
No, verify local connectivity.
Right, back again to power.
Well,
At the site.
not necessarily the power, but you
That's going to be verify local. That's going to be verifying local connectivity.
Well, no.
Get to that question.
Well, no, you could have power and not have local connectivity. All you need is a bad config.
So you're talking about pinging the default gateway, possibly?
Yes. Right. So we started here, right? And you could I could make the case that you would start here before you go to the server, but really you don't. If you're trying to pull something from the server and you can't, you're probably going to ping the server first because you want to make sure that it's up, right? And if it says no, it doesn't mean that it's not up. It just means that you can't connect to it. But from there, you could say, okay, I pinged the server. I got no response. Let me ping my gateway and make sure that my gateway isn't the problem, right? And then from there, once you verify that this little segment over here is good, then you start thinking traceroute, because you're like, so first I know I can't get to the server. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that I can at least get to my gateway, right? And if you can get to your gateway, then you start looking outside your network, because there's no point in trace routing if the problem is inside your network, right? It's inside your segment. Then there's no point in trace routing because you're not going to get past the gateway anyway, right? So the device first, right? I'm talking CompTIA, guys. I know we all have different troubleshooting methods and things and steps and things that we like to go through, right? Device first, okay? And then from there, you want to verify local connectivity. So you want to make sure that the problem isn't in your shop. And then once you verify that, then you start looking outside your shop, and that's where traceroute comes into play. Okay, so from troubleshooting perspective, just make sure when you're taking the exam, you read the question closely, and you know exactly. They'll tell you what you've done and what you haven't done. Like, you may be just starting at the very beginning of the troubleshooting process, or they may tell you you've tried this and you've tried that. What would you try next? So just kind of keep that Keep that mindset when you're troubleshooting. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. So we pinged the server, no response. We pinged our gateway, and we are good. Our gateway is good. So that means that the problem is somewhere else. Kevin says on practice exam, you were given ping and trace route as options. You did read closely enough and answered it incorrectly and mentioned hops, but you answered with ping. Yeah, well, if it mentioned hops, then that's definitely trace route because ping is not. It's not telling you. It is telling you how long it's taking for you to get a response, but it's not showing you the path to get to where you're going. Right? That's where your hops come into play. So as soon as you see hops, that should have told you trace route. Um, yeah, hey, I do too. It's not just you. Trust me. It's not just you. I have to make sure. And one of the things I like to do before, this is just me, sidebar. One of the things I like to do before I go and take an actual exam is I like to take a couple practice exams and get that out. Get the speeding or the speed reading and the um, and the skimming. I like to get that out of the way, and it's easy to do it because you miss a question that you should easily get right, and you'll see it. Right, you'll come back to it and it'll say, "Oh, which one of these allow uh, for remote connection, right, to access point?" And I pick secure shell when the answer was telling that because they wanted unsecure, because they put unsecure up there and I didn't see it. So after that happens a couple of times, it kind of reminds you to slow down, and then I kind of have it out of my system by the time I'm taking the exam. Um, but it's something I have it bad. We were talking about it yesterday too. I'm a skimmer. Give me a paragraph, I'll probably get like 2 sentences out of it. So I get like dyslexia when I start looking at a bunch of letters or something. Um, buffering. Buffering will be TCP is connection oriented. Um, UDP is just send and forget. So yeah, it is. But what I'm trying to think is, I've seen buffering on TCP stuff. um, off the top of my head, I'm thinking UDP because like before it even sends, there has to be when you're using TCP. There's almost like a three-way. It's like a three-way. A sentence saying, "Are you there? Yeah, I'm there. Are you ready to receive? Yeah, I'm ready to receive. Send it. Okay, I'm sending it." That it's kind of that type of deal. Versus with UDP, it's like walkie-talkie, right? Like you send it, and whether the person is listening or not, whether they're on the frequency or not, it gets sent, and you don't know that it's been sent, right? Until someone says Roger. So that's how I try to remember UDP versus TCP. Is there's kind of like a acknowledgement that you're getting ready to send something, and they say, okay, go ahead and send it. Okay, I'm sending it, right? That's TCP versus UDP. It's like a walkie-talkie or Voxer. You send it, and whether they're ready for it or not, it's sent and it's gone. So, um, yeah, but that's the thing. When I'm watching videos, I see buffering, right? Depending, So I don't know. That's a good question. I have to Google that one.
I think TCP will have windowing, which should be buffering. Or if if it loses its packets out of sequence, it's going to shrink the size of the window
Yeah.
and give you smaller segments.
Yeah, and UDPs, I guess it's not going to buffer because it just
It
sends.
says, like you said, get it or forget it.
Yeah.
It might also be that real-time protocol for the video, which is a combination of both.
Yeah. That's what kind of throws me off. But
But just given the options of UDP and TCP, I'd go with TCP because that's connection based. And if you get fragmentation and get the fragments out of order, it'll save them and then reorder them for you.
Right, and then send when it's ready. So yeah, TCP. That's what I go with. Okay.
I like to think of UDP as like digital TV, like you're watching TV and you get all the artifacts and stuff, and they're just dropped.
Right. Righty, good stuff today, guys. Okay, let's go a little bit further. I'm not going to go too much further, but all right, let's say that we went trace route. We did a trace route, and we made it to, let's say we made it to the switch. Okay, so we ran a trace route. Actually, let's do a trace route real quick. I need this IP address. 2.4. Okay. So come in here real quick, and I'm going to go to 2.4. Oh wait, not the browser. I'm sorry. There we go. All right, so 192.168.2.4. Okay, so we got our hops, right? You see the hops right here, and obviously the first one is always going to be your gateway, right? So, just for FYI, I guess, you ever run a trace route, and for the most part, you're not going to be running a trace route if your ping fails. But some people, they'll skip ping. So if you run a trace route and you don't make it to your gateway, then problems in your shop. Just so you know, if you skip ping, right? If you skip ping and go straight to trace route, that'll be the first indicator that the problems in your shop. It won't go anywhere. First hop will fail. All right. But okay, so you can see here that we got up to, here's your hop count here, 4, right? So let's say that we got up to 3. And then we got here, that's where we failed. What's the next step? Or what do you start thinking from there?
I would be looking to verify connectivity from the switch to the server, so I'd check my connections, the physical side, and I can actually look at the lights and see if they're working properly, and then make sure it's all plugged in, and then you just, check the server for its IP config, make sure that's good, and make sure the port's good on the switch.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Kevin says default gateway. So with that, it couldn't be the default gateway because I'm pinging from here. So if I'm pinging from here and I make it three hops, and I made it past my default gateway from here. Okay, if I make it to the switch, it means that there's no problem here, there's no problem here, and there's no problem here. And you make it to the switch, there has to be some problem with the server. Because once you make it to the switch, then the switch has the MAC address of the server, so we're not talking IP stuff anymore, right?
Are you seeing the MAC address of the server?
What's that?
Are you seeing the MAC address of the server? Have you verified that?
Yeah, you can see the MAC address here.
No, have you verified it? So I'm asking. So if you haven't verified the MAC address, you can be back to the port or the cable being bad, the physical connection.
Right. Oh, from our perspective, I got you. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So from this point, I'm thinking like he's thinking. I'm looking MAC address level because as soon as you get here, now you're out of layer 3. You're back at layer 2 now, right? As soon as you get to the switch, and so it has to be either the server's down, it could be a problem with the MAC address, like he said, or config. I'm thinking that, it could be a bad config, or it could even, even if it has the wrong IP address, well, yeah, if it has a wrong IP address, it's not going to make it. So that's another thing that you want to check. But yeah, once you get here, you're thinking layer 2, right? So like he said, you're thinking MAC address type stuff, and I'm just checking to see if the server. Now you're focusing on the server because there's nothing wrong with the path to the server, right? That's what we've kind of verified. By getting here, we verified that there's nothing wrong with the path to the server. So if we make it that far, if we get to the 3 hops and we make it here, there's nothing wrong with the path. So it has to be the server, the connection. It could be this, right? It could be something wrong with this, with the Ethernet, right? With the connection or something like that. It could be config or connection. But at this point, we've gone past the IP stuff, right? Or the route. So yeah. At this point, you're thinking server. If we do trace route and we only make it 2 hops, then there's something wrong with the path, and now we need to start looking at whichever router the packet didn't make it to, right? If it makes it to this one and then not this one, then we need to start looking over here and figuring out what's going on with the config. Or over here. How come we didn't know where to send it from here? So, all right. It's only like 10 minutes left, but you guys have anything else, or you want to talk about anything else, or you want to cut out? Looks like you guys are good. So let me get the names down.
You're the controlling factor, man.
No, it's up to you. I mean, I'm here to help you guys. If you guys don't, if you feel like you don't need it, we don't have to sit here.
And we always need help, but you don't know, right now we don't know the right questions to ask.
Yeah, that makes it hard, right? Hey, Kelly.
Hey, good points.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought somebody had asked something.
No, they're just commenting on Maurice's comment. He's testing Monday.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Monday morning. You don't have anything? You feeling pretty good about it? It's definitely good. Hey, well, that's what I like to hear. Definitely wish you good luck on that. Are you testing at home or at a facility? Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, that's right. You wanted to go to. So look, here's what you should do. Professor Mercer's course notes. 007. I almost want to say that the chart is better on the A+ ones, but let me look real quick on the connectors. Which objective is it? If you know off the top of your head, or if someone knows, just type it in there. I'll just keep scrolling and I'll find it. Here they go. Here are the copper ones. Here are the fiber ones, right? So look, when it comes to the fiber ones, to the fiber connectors, right? So ST, straight tip, right? It has this little thing that's sticking out. And then also has these little whatever they're called, but you twist them. So if you remember that
The locking mechanism.
yeah, right. So if you can remember twist, right? ST, stick and twist. That's how I remember this. That's how I remember straight tip. ST, stick, twist. LC, I don't remember how I remember that one. It's long. It's the longest one, right? L long. I'm pretty sure it's longer than this than the MTRJ. But stick. This one is stick and click, I think. When you put it in, like you hear it click. That's how I remember these. Stick, click, stick, twist, and then I remember the LC because it's long. It's the longest one. So that's how I remember. I don't know how you do it, but I mean, if you have today, tomorrow, and Sunday, and it's not like there's 50 of them. It's just these main ones. And the main thing that you want to remember is just your single mode versus your multi mode, the ranges, right? Um, you remember this, and you'll be good on this exam. They don't really knock you over the head with this stuff. They just want to make sure that you understand, like, which one of these is going to give you better range. And obviously, which one is faster. Speed of light is much faster than copper, right? So just make sure you know that fiber is gonna give you your speed of light speeds, right? And then also there's way less attenuation, right? That's why you get the distances than you do here, right? You max out at about, what is it for copper? 100 meters, something like that. But you get a lot more distance and speed with fiber. So that's all like I said, they're not going to knock you over the head with this stuff. But just what I would do is just kind of stare at these all weekend and you'll know them. Trust me. You stare at something long enough, you'll find a way to remember it. But stick and click, remember SC, stick, click, ST, stick, twist, and then LC long, and then just remember that this is the odd one. Okay. If you don't have this chart, go get it. By the way, this is an awesome chart. Professor Messer really hooks you up. Covers just about everything that's going to be covered on the exam. So, all right. Let me finish getting the names, and then you guys can cut out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth mentioning that that chart is available on the forum. Tristan was nice enough to make sure it's on there.
Yeah, definitely. Just go to the Net Plus section, and it'll be right there at the top. Okay, go Paul. Just about all of you. Robert, Sean, and Terrence. Okay, I got just about everybody. Let me know if you don't hear your name.